mainstream.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Clayton. We know about what's happening in the Gaza Strip, this ethnic cleansing, killing of thousands of people. We know about the attack, the October 7th attack on the Israeli kibbutzim and settlements around the Gaza Strip. But what's happening inside Israel is really it's on the brink of a civil war, where you have the Azov battalion, the Azovites of Israel, which are called the Kahanists, followers of a U.S.-born rabbi named Meir Kahane, who was killed in the early 90s. This guy is the ideological father of everything happening in Israel right now, of this kind of Azov-style movement. And they are the national security minister who heads the police has just given them thousands of weapons, and they're basically to act as militias, and then to act that will collaborate with the state forces. The communications minister has just passed legislation to imprison any Israeli citizen who is accused of undermining national morale on the orders of that national security minister. So you have the government can now imprison Israeli citizens simply for the wrong opinion, and then is giving weapons to these extreme right-wing militias. So I actually interviewed the only anti-Zionist Jewish member of the Knesset, Israel's parliament. His name is Ofer Kassif. He is the most hated man in Israel by these Kahanists. So take a listen to what he had to say about what he said is a coming civil war in Israel. Well, now the mask has been ripped off. Israel has long had this fascist kind of underbelly that doesn't get talked about in the Western media, that just calls it the only democracy in the Middle East. But the same way, we talk about Ukraine supposed to be since 2014. It's a completely different reality. Israel has this extreme right-wing nationalist movement, some of which are religious, some of which are secular or anywhere in between, that is dead set on ethnically cleansing not only the Gaza Strip, but the West Bank, and then all of Israel itself, of Palestinians. So this is not going to be Jew on Jew. These militias will target Palestinians. They'll seek to, who are Israeli citizens, who are permanent residents of Jerusalem, and then who live under occupation in the West Bank. They want to get rid of all of them. And they also will target left-wing Jews who are anti-Zionist or critical of the state. Just an example, there was an Israeli teacher in the city of Tiberias today who liked an Instagram post from an account called Eye on Palestine. And she was promptly fired, and she might be criminally prosecuted. And if you look at the tweet, put it up, the tweet from Kan News, the Israeli news outlet, the responses from the Israeli public are deport her to Gaza, strip her of her citizenship, kill her, death to this woman. That is what's pulsing through Israeli society right now. An Israeli Telegram channel with 80,000. That is what's pulsing through Israeli society right now. An Israeli Telegram channel with 80,000 some followers, where all they do is the most grotesque photos of dead people in Gaza. And it gets hundreds of laughs, and then they put jokes and laugh about it. I mean, this is like the Nazi-esque ideology that Zionism really is, and is coming out so much. And so you can imagine that the only thing that Zionists hate more than Palestinians are Jews who don't go along with the agenda, with the state, because Palestinians, as they see, are an easy threat to identify. That's the external enemy. But anti-Zionist Jews or dissident Jews, those are an enemy from within that are harder to identify. It's the same way that Nazis thought about Jews in Nazi Germany. So I mean, if you've gone to, I've covered these extreme right-wing fascist rallies in Israel in 2014 during the 51-day war, and they chant Gaza is a graveyard. There's no school in Gaza because all the children are dead. And then these small counter protests of like Israeli leftists will get beaten. People get beaten. That was 9 years ago. Things have significantly shifted, as reality has become more severe with this Hamas attack on October 7th that has just totally created a frenzy in Israel. And on top of that, the propaganda from the Israeli government, from Benjamin Netanyahu, about 40 beheaded babies, everything, all of this stuff happened around Gaza. That Hamas attack was bad enough, but there were civilians killed. But the Israeli government intentionally lied to the Israeli public and the Western audiences with the connivance of the Western media in order to generate bloodlust for Palestinians to carry out this ethnic cleansing in Gaza, but also to generate this bloodlust in the Israeli public to go after Palestinians inside their country and also against any dissident Jews. So, I think this could quickly turn into a Ukraine-like scenario where Gaza is essentially like the Donbass was in 2015. It's not a perfect one-to-one parallel, but that's the area being attacked by the government, ethnically cleansed. And then inside, there's a hunt for anyone, accused of sympathies to the enemy. And now these Kahanist militias are armed by this.